So welcome back, everybody. Paul again, talking about esoteric psychology, esoteric teachings. And as I mentioned in my other videos, I grew up in India and I learned meditation in my early 20s. And I had a fascination with consciousness and what can happen with our awareness and the stories of saints and sages and yogis and all that. And then later in life, I also learned that there were tribes in parts of the world that tried mushrooms or other kinds of things, and it's all about our consciousness. And I was fascinated by the stories that I heard from both camps, both the use of materials and so on, and the use of meditation to have an experience, an expanded experience of being alive. And it just made sense to me that, hey, you know, I got this awareness, that's all I got as far as I know, I have a little identity here, and I want to see what it's all about. So I try to share things that I've learned over the years and experiences I've had, and maybe that is useful to somebody on their journey, their personal understanding. And today I was going to explore a little bit about the so-called out-of-body experiences. Now, a lot of people have had a natural out-of-body experience. That means they had some kind of a, maybe it was a near-death experience, or they were in their sleep or something, and they had some kind of an out-of-body experience, and they could see that their body's over there, and then they're off doing something, maybe like in a dream. And lucid dreaming, and people becoming woken up while their body's asleep and their awareness is somewhere else, and they can actually direct the course of their dream. So all that kind of testimony really fascinated me, because so, man, that's like, man, being a human being is like awesome, because there's all kinds of things you can do. You can become aware of so many things. So when in my early days of meditation, I got into the first thing you get into, like, okay, what's that thing about you have an astral body? What's that all about? And, you know, then there's a mental body, and then there's the light body, and so on. And all that kind of stuff fascinated me. So I picked up a lot of books, and this is one of the ones I read a long time ago, Projection of the Astral Body. And a lot of people who have watched these videos and other ones like it are fascinated by this kind of subject too. And this one here, Practical Techniques of Astral Projection, the astral plane, where I guess you go in your dream state, you cruise around the astral plane. This guy here was quite psychic, and he had some interesting abilities, and could see people's auras, and he described, his name is Leadbeater, and he explored a lot of aspects about the psychic mechanism that we have here. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about Ekankar. Ekankar was a little bit about astral plane. This is a long time ago I read this book, but apparently, you know, people have become quite adept at leaving their body. They write books like this. Guy's name is D. Scott Rogo. And again, the whole fascinated me. So in my meditative experience, when I first started meditating, I had all these concepts like, okay, well, I'm going to get into this yogic state, and I'm going to have like this kind of experience, and maybe I'm going to leave my body, and maybe I can go back to Atlantis and kind of see what's going on back there and check things out. I had all these ideas. So as I went along, I realized, well, there's a little bit more to the whole story of awareness. And one of the most popular books of all time that come down for at least 5,000 years was the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And I started getting into that in the Upanishads, and I go, whoa, man, these guys knew what the heck they were talking about. I don't know what it is, but they had just detailed explanations about, okay, you can do this with your attention, you can do that with your attention, and you can do this and that, and then, okay, that starts to get some answers if you practice techniques. Basically what it's trying to say is this is actually a compilation and a commentary on the 108 Sutras of Patanjali, which has to do with managing our attention and discovering within ourselves what we're all about and what we can do with our attention. You see, so all that stuff fascinated me, and over the years I I started, getting away from things like, well, I didn't really care about going back to Atlantis and seeing what the dog was. So I became more interested in just the pure bliss. A lot of people, when you say, hey, go inside, it's very understandable. They don't know, okay, what do you mean by going inside? What do you actually mean? That's a good question, because a lot of times when people close their eyes, they go, oh, okay, that's enough for me. And all their fears and anxieties start coming up and so on. So it's not a very familiar practice to a lot of people to close their eyes, although in the Christian world people pray. But meditation is different than prayer, because when you pray, okay, you can pray and you ask. A lot of times people ask for, like, okay, can you get me a new car, or something like that, prayer. But the soul prayer doesn't have a word, because it's basically hungering for a kind of fulfillment and satisfaction that can't be coming from a new car. So there is a need for that prayerful feeling, but it doesn't need to be voiced in a particular way or whatever. It's more of just like an openness. So as far as like experiencing, like, what is the other states, and I was going to talk about dimensions, the dimensions of awareness, because a lot of these books, they talk about these different planes. And even in modern discussion, people talk about, well, there's these dimensions, the universe has all these dimensions. And I've listened to some really, really amazing Hindu gurus and meditators and so on talk about these things, and there's descriptions, there's books that talk about stuff like that, but again, it comes down to a practical experience. Unless it's real for us, it really doesn't mean anything. So we need to go inside, and going inside is really one thing that I recommend, and it's in this book, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, is a very, very difficult thing, to train your mind to not react to what you perceive. That's hard to do consistently, because when we react, either positively or negatively, we can react to a certain thing, and then it becomes like a ping pong ball. Okay, I have an impression, I see, hear, feel something, it comes my way, I slap it back, go back and forth, instead of saying, okay, take the perception in and stop it right there. That's non-judicial reasoning, the perception without judicial reasoning, perception without... When we were babies, we come out of the womb and we've been all happy in there, and all our beings are in there. Then all our senses are perceive. We don't have a concept yet. We haven't been told even what our name is. We wouldn't even understand it if you did try to tell us. So there's a kind of perception that we need to put ourselves in, the eyes of a child, the innocence, the student, the devotion, whatever you call it. Like, I just need to be a little bit open to me, to my own being. Then I can expand my own being. It's not like, okay, well, if I'm open, I got to be humble, and then I'm gonna serve this God all my life, and I'm gonna be a slave or something. It's more of a devotion to our own nature, to the wonder of being alive, and going through the various phases. Now, they talk about these so-called planes. Okay, well, I know a lot of theories, I've heard different stories and this and that, and I don't really have a measurement system where I can say, okay, well, I went here and I went there, and I say, look, okay, let's say you have an opportunity to get in this elevator, and there's like 150 floors on there. You say, okay, well, which one do you want to get off on? Let's say there's 11 planes or whatever. Okay, well, which plane are you going to, sir? Do you want to go just go straight to the top? Go to the final one first, Then you can come down, whatever, check it out. The thing is that I want to go to the most essential part of my own being. And in that state, it's kind of like, well, if consciousness, there's a part of our consciousness that it's in the dream plane, it's in the mental plane, it's in whatever plane there might be. There's a thread of our consciousness through all of them. And if we follow that thread, okay, it's like going in the elevator. Okay, well, maybe someday, I'll come back and visit that plane or whatever. But in the meantime, I really need to just kind of go to that happy plane, the bliss plane, because that's what I need. But in our awareness, we can experiment, and it's a very private experience. There's no set thing about what we're supposed to have happen. Okay, there's some people who are really great musicians. They're good with their ears. People who are good with their sight. There's people who are good with their hands. There's people with good, every kind of different kind of skill. We all have an individual aptitude and little window to perceive the world, the body that we're given, the place that we're located. Then we have choices that we make, and we start to realize that, look, there's many dimensions of my own being that I can experiment with just sitting here. Because after all the activities that we do, we sit down quietly, we go, okay. That's it. And as far as dimensions of what we are, okay, I talk a little bit about what I know. Things that are associated with vision, there's an information plane, you might say, in the universe. Okay, the matrix, whatever, there's scientists know, okay, it's structured in some cosmic way that, we're just barely even tapping the surface. They say that, okay, there's what's called a non-locality, and this proton over here, it's shifted in this area here, and its pair over here a million miles away also shifted or whatever. I mean, there's a whole kind of a mystery about the physical universe. Science takes us to the point where it's like, okay, now we're in dimensions of it's very ethereal. Well, this is a subject that went a long time ago. What's the most ethereal thing of all? Our awareness. And how do you experiment with that? Well, the first thing is people recommend, okay, you close your eyes, close your senses, subdue the outward stimulation, and put the awareness, our awareness, figure, okay, the hand, our senses are like this, a hand, okay, there's 5 fingers, 5 senses. The hand is connected to an arm, and the arm is connected to a brain. So we have our physical body, and we have our senses, but those senses are connected to a mind and emotional quality, and a lot of impressions that we're born with in our DNA, the built-in programming, you might say, and the habit patterns that we have, and then we combine that with, there's an essence, there's a thread to go through all that, which is the non-local, non-dual consciousness. And that's why they recommend don't react to what you perceive, because if you want to perceive truth, whatever's real, perceive openly, non-reactingly. These great sages, believe me, it can be a real challenge not reacting in this world. I'm not that good at that sometimes. But the concept of being able to be neutral and just observe, and you observe moments. One of the phrases in this book, watch the moments, the precession of the moments. There's a continuing that is it's not chopped up into time. Existence really isn't chopped up into time. We use time to mark certain things that we want to do, but if you just stop it, if you turn off all the clocks, the birds don't look at a clock. There's time and seasons, but not in a way that we manufacture time. Real cosmic time is not chop every minute the same. It's cyclical, it's seasonal. And about dimensions, okay, when we close our eyes, feel the emotional dimension of our body, our being rather. There's visions, memories, there's warmth and joy, emotions. The mystery of maximizing being a human being comes down to an alignment, yoga, a union, an integration of all the different facets of our being, the emotions, the mind, the physical senses, the intuition, and the inner soulful longing for a kind of completion fulfillment that we have. Every human being has something in them that is driving us to explore and expand. And what happens, we get frustrated, we get blocked. We have cultural things that block our growth. There are human patterns of behavior. There's body issues, and people have, health issues. There are many different obstacles to us just becoming just letting ourselves be. We don't have to manufacture anything. We try to manufacture an identity. So we have this manufactured identity we all have, and it's a part of our life. We just have to carry it around with us. But the problem is that in general life, we come with a culture, and sometimes people really impose a culture on us. There are many people who grow up in a religion or some other kind of social structure, and their whole life is outlined for them, the clothes they wear and everything. So the problem is, if we want to get out of that, that's what I was saying, we all have an instinct and a longing to have our consciousness expand and grow so that it can be more inclusive, and it's really all about trying to find out who we really are. Young people go off and do strange things, and adults do all kinds of strange things, and we try to experiment and trying to find out who we are. But what these great teachers do, and these esoteric teachings that have come down to us, they suggest, first, let's look inside. Don't be afraid to look there. Find the dimensions of your own existence so that you have some balance in your life. So we have a mind, we have aspects of our collective beingness, you might say. We have an emotional component that if we're quiet, that's what stillness helps us with. We practice some quiet in our life, so we have a reference point. We have like a ground plane where we can feel consistency, and that's in a consciousness that I was talking about, the non-dual awareness, the place where there's no judgment. Because when we sit here, there's really no judgment. It's very unfortunate that a lot of religion has come down to like, okay, well, here's a certain standard of behavior, and you must behave like this, or you might even have to look like that, and that's it, okay? And if you don't meet that standard, then, I'm sorry about it, you're just going to not make it. But, and we know that there's all kinds of, every single snowflake is different, everything is beautiful. We're all here, we have a chance, and as far as our identity, there's a certain amount of necessity to have a certain character, you might say, but we try to have like an integration of all the right elements so that there's a balance where our mind can go run away with us. What we call our mind is the endless thought process, the compare and the contrast, the analysis, there's a part of our psyche that, again, it just perceives whatever. It's picking up information. We don't even want to know what it's knowing. The part of our being, like, that subtly picks up things around us, might even pick up really nasty things that we don't want to feel or know about. But when we coordinate all our various kinds of perceptions in a quiet place, we sit, and the costume that we wear during the day, whatever it is, the personality, nobody's going to judge us. I mean, we get naked. People get naked, they just don't care. Okay, I'm by myself. No, it doesn't matter. I'll just get naked. So the same way with our personality, that the thing is, our personality can be very, very, it can be very, very delicate because we go through very difficult times, and we're all different. And there are people, we go through periods of time when we're vulnerable, and if we claim we're not vulnerable, we don't ever feel vulnerable, then that's not really true, because we've all felt vulnerable, and we all felt unclarity about this life. But when we go and get that ground plane within ourselves, a place of restfulness where we allow ourselves temporarily to be beyond our senses and have that ground plane of perception, just kind of see, just kind of observe, just kind of feel. And a lot of people ask, well, if you meditate a lot, aren't you going to be hallucinating or whatever? No, because our awareness is there beyond all the visions and beyond this eyes. There's a dark space inside where we can still perceive, and we can be very, very conscious, and we can perceive an inner radiance. But even beyond that, there's a stillness and a quiet and a silence that the Upanishad says is a beautiful way. It says there's a place, you follow the silence to the very end, and you get to a place of just peaceful joy where you just rest there, where you don't need to see any visions, and you don't need to go back to Atlantis, and you don't need to find out what your past life was, because it's irrelevant, because there's, in a sense, we bathe in the ocean, we live in the ocean. Our bodies on a subatomic level, we just can't even distinguish between the edge of our skin and the air around us. Our perceptual limitations, distinguish between, okay, there's the end of my hand and then there's the air. I mean, I don't see the air, but it's real. We now find out I can't grasp the light over there, but I know it's there. Our awareness, and the Upanishads talks about how subtle it is. It's a very, very subtle. Again, you can know your true self by being in a non-judgmental, non-reactionary, neutral, non-dual place of your own awareness. And sometimes people need to do that in silence and get away from everything and practice. But in our daily life, in our modern life, we have to be able to preserve and keep that, some of that connection while we're going about all our stuff. And it's very possible. It's just practice, because after a while you get good. Okay, every day you get up and say, okay, I'm not leaving this house until I'm locked in like a magnet onto that thing that I want to feel connected to. But after a while you wake up and it doesn't take you very long. Okay, I sit still for a few minutes. And then when you have that time, your luxury time, you just go, you just bathe in a non-dual, peaceful, joyful, blissful state. And whatever it is, there's an indefinable thing, that consciousness, and when the more we practice and try to go into that neutral space, it starts to flow out and make harmonious radiances through, it harmonizes our body, it harmonizes everything, and we cooperate with it. It's just don't throw up so many obstacles. I mean, there's things that we do in our life that everybody does that are just completely like out of whack with with the harmony of life. So that's why we need a refresher. I practice every day, or try to do, and sometimes more than one time a day. But I encourage people to follow up on some of this information. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of really great teachers and beings out there, all trying to participate in this unfoldment of consciousness. And I've been making my 2 cents out there for a long time, because I think it's important. It's important that we wake up. It's important that we not argue. It's important that we see reality, what's going on with the social structure, what being imposed on us, where the real freedom of being a human being is. And I'm just one of many voices out there. But I hope that if people get some inspiration from this, even just 1 or 2 people, that's fine. But I know I've had a lot of great feedback over the years, and it's a process that we're all involved in. We're all really equal, beautiful participants in this incredible journey, and it's time that we sort of, instead of like people get into conflicts with each other, you can dance, you can move and have a lot of activity. It doesn't have to be a fight. You can have a dance instead. That's my philosophy. So thanks again for watching. I encourage people to see a lot of other content that I recommended, and books that I recommended here. Take up some subject for a while and some aspect of esoteric psychology and esoteric teachings, and maybe it's numbers or maybe it's some other thing, and just get into it for a while and see where it leads you. You see, like, all the esoteric teachings come down to a unity of how basically all the Platonic solids, they all nestle into one sphere, and they, basically as above, so below. We have that place within the context of the infinite universe. We have our little place that we can move with and resonate with. So thanks again for watching, and see you guys in the next video.